What is up, survivors? We are back for another top 5 build location. This time we are going to be on Genesis. Let's caveat this. These are my top 5 places I like to build at. Might not work for you, maybe they will, but these are my top 5 in no particular order. Starting off with number 1, we're actually out here on the ocean biome. We are sitting at about 4060, not too far away from the edge of the map. So the edge of the barrier is on the other side of this island right here. Actually, let's kind of zoom out here. Bam. So we're on this edge of the biome, and this is generally the island. So the reason why I like this spot, there's a few spots that are kind of like this spread around, and the reason why I like this is because it's not necessarily big, but the direct land access, so I don't have to worry about cliffs or anything like that. I can just swim up to this with whatever creatures I have, especially if you tame creatures from other biomes and bring them up. It's kind of nice to be able to just come right up here on the land. You have a little bit more area. It's not very level, so if you're building out here, if you're playing out here, chances are you're building on an ocean platform. But if you wanted to do something cool, like a pillared up base with some platforms on, like ceilings on it, you can do that over here as well, because there's these reefs around here are fairly shallow, so you could build up and do it that way. You could do a raft base as well, but you could also, the ocean platforms are pretty much what are made for this region. You do have metal nodes out here, metal and salt deposits, and they're actually spread out pretty much on any one of these rock formations. You're going to find metal and you're going to find salt deposits as well. I like this peaceful biome until you get in the water. Obviously it gets a little vicious out in the water, but you have a lot of underwater different nodes and gems and all that good stuff down in the water underneath of you. So definitely highly advise having something that's really good at harvesting underwater things, like a Dunkleo would be super useful. But I like this spot. It's peaceful. Not a whole lot of people usually over here. It's usually a fairly peaceful spot. There's a lot of other spots out here that generally have bigger areas, but they're way up top of here. Now I know we have access to Helena to teleport, which makes it a little bit easier. My usual game plan is to find something that's a bit more accessible, and this is definitely more accessible, this land piece over here. There's definitely a couple of them out here that work pretty well, but for whatever reason, this one's always treated me pretty kindly. You're kind of backed up against the corner. You can easily pen some of this off underwater to have your cool little underwater pen, because you're backed up to the world barrier, so you can keep all your sea dinos fairly safe. There's only a couple different ways of entry in there, so you don't have to worry about being too terribly, you don't have to worry about building a giant sea pen, right? So if we're back up in here and that's the island, you have this kind of this pool to work with, and you have these natural reef barrier here that you could kind of gate off, and then the same thing over here. You kind of have these natural reefs that you can use as a wall, so you don't have to build quite as much to get your pen in order. And you know, this is definitely more of a PvE setup. Most of these build locations usually are, but yeah, that's number 1. So let's go to number 2. All right, for number 2, we are sitting in the bog biome, and we're right around 5466, but this is more of a general location more than a specific one. So basically around this tree is what we're looking at. Let's get right up on this tree so you know where I'm at. So we're at 5466, 67-ish basically. What I like about this specific location is that it's not down in the water, so where you're, you know, constantly getting attacked by sarcos and baryonyx and all the nasty stuff that's in the water, and you have this nice little cliff edge basically going all the way around you, with the exception of this ramp down this one side. Now I typically will build on this other side, and this also bridges over to another location over here too. This spot generally right around here is where I'll try to build at, which is, like I said, 5466. Mainly because it's recent, really flat over here. It's not a whole lot going on. You can clear most of this stuff out. You can back yourself up against this cliff, so you don't have to worry about too many things coming in too many different directions. It's a little bit easier to protect. The metal nodes are everywhere over here, which is what I like. So you have the metal nodes right here, and then across this bridge, you have plenty more metal nodes surrounding this tree over here. So it gives you plenty of room to expand, and if you do expand out towards this tree and lose these metal nodes, you're not completely out, because you'll still have the tree over here surrounded with metal nodes as well. This spot is also far enough away from where the Bloodstalker spawn, so you don't have to worry too terribly much about constantly having to deal with Bloodstalkers. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's the bog, so expect the standard resources you would expect out of the bog, out of a swamp biome essentially, and that's pretty much what you're going to find in here. Obviously, dealing with the insect swarms can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but if you can deal with that, you're sitting pretty good. There's not a whole lot of angry stuff up top of here. You get some raptors every now and then, maybe a carno every now and then, but that's pretty much it. You're not going to have a whole lot of nasty stuff. I'm a little partial because I love the swamp biomes, even though this one can be really annoying with the insect swarms, but I really like it. Plus you still have water access right here. Some of these you actually, I don't think it's these two, I think it's further out. Some of these other ones actually have crystal nodes inside of them. I think these just have metal. Yeah, these just have metal. But there are other ones in the area that'll have crystal nodes for you, and you'll see them up in the trees and stuff too. This is probably one of my favorite biomes as far as Genesis goes for a lot of different reasons, but mainly it's aesthetically. I just really like the way that it looks. Anyhow, that's it. That's number 2. Let's roll off to number 3. All right, number 3, we're still back here in the bog biome. If you're looking for a location in the bog that's kind of away, like maybe you like the feel of it or the idea of living in the bog, but you don't want to have to deal too much with all the nonsense around you, this spot is actually pretty okay for it. And this is at 87.50, and this is at 87.85. Now, kind of on a little plateau. The area is not very flat, but it's flat enough that you could clear some of these trees out and build something pretty cool in here. Definitely for like a small to medium size. The only access you really have to walk up here is this little ramp that comes down back behind you. Now you're sitting right up against the edge of the map, so that's actually kind of convenient. Again, you only have to worry about certain sides of you. You don't have to worry about anything coming up from behind you. And because you're on the edge of this cliff, you have this cliff going around, you don't have to worry too much about things coming after you. You have these higher cliffs up here, which is kind of cool, but primarily this is where you're going to build. Backdraw to something like this is that you're going to have to go out and find resources. It's going to be a little bit tougher. You're not sitting right by the metal nodes and things like that. But with the bog, if you skirt around the outside, usually you're going to have some better luck. And obviously, if you get to the point where you're taming bloodstalkers, you can get around pretty easily. This spot is probably a little bit safer as far as survivability goes. I would recommend this one if you're just not quite sure, or just need a temporary spot, or even if you're just a small tribe or whatever. Good spot to start off at, mainly just to get your bearings, get situated, get a small building, some storage and stuff goes. You could definitely stay here long periods of time. You could definitely stay here long term as well. But the problem with this spot is really the lack. You have your basic resources nearby, but you're constantly going to have to go out to get other things, which can be a little frustrating. But anyhow, this is number 3. I definitely dig this. I should probably caveat this list with, I usually typically play either single player or on some sort of private server or like modded server. These build locations are not taken into account the official setting of not being able to build within certain mission areas. So these locations, if you're playing on official, might not be available to you, but these are the ones that I typically build on. Basically, I won't play official Genesis mainly for that reason. The restrictions to building with the mission areas can be really frustrating, and I tend to stay away from it. But yeah, that's it. That is number 3. Number 4 is actually out here in the volcano biome, and we are sitting, let me get kind of over top this spot. We're sitting at about 1366. Now we're way off from in the back corner of the biome for a couple different reasons. It's fairly easily to protect because you're up against the biome wall. If you're noticing a trend here, it seems to be easier to survive, at least in my experience anyway. The nice thing about being in the volcano biome is that a lot of your minerals are everywhere. Like even your end game element shards can be harvested from inside the volcano. Like everything is right here, which makes this biome super easy to thrive in later on. This is definitely more of a medium to late game sort of play area, I think personally. You're out of range of the volcano eruptions down here too. So the volcano up there will erupt from time to time, and molten lava will land on you and do massive damage. They doesn't actually fire this far out, so you're pretty safe up here. If you were to build something in this back corner, you could easily do that. And like I said, we're in the back corner. We could build something all the way back here and still have plenty of resources nearby. Lava nearby if we decided that we wanted to use the magma source usage in the lava. So that's right here. Plenty of minerals here. Plenty of oil nodes down here as well. A lot of your resources are pretty close by. It's a nice spot because, like I said, you're away from the eruptions and then the really, really bigger, nastier stuff that you tend to see in the volcano biome. You don't necessarily have to deal with all the way down here. So this is, I would say, this is probably one of my, if I'm living in the volcano biome, this is probably one of my go-tos. Got plenty of room to build, to be happy at, to hang out at, and all that good stuff. On to number 5. For number 5, we are in the lunar biome. Now, typically I would say don't build in the lunar biome. There's just too many hazards to try to deal with while you're in here. However, there are a few of these tiny little aberration caves. Now, while there could be some nasty stuff in here, as you can see, there's a few seekers. Might even see Carcinos roaming around. And you'll also, of course, we see like the tech wrecks back there as well. It bottlenecks me from the radiation, so I don't have to deal with the radiation or the asteroid storms while I'm in here, which is incredibly useful because I don't like dealing with any of that. So you have some metal nodes down here. You have access to typical aberration stuff, some sap and other things that are down here as well. It's kind of a mixture of resources down here between what's in the water and what's on the top. You have access to a lot of mix and match stuff. You're in the lunar biome, so you'll still have access to a lot more things too, as far as general resources go. The problem with the lunar biome is this constant radiation and hot and cold temperatures that are incredibly back and forth. Like, you never know what you're going to get, so it makes it really hard to build and thrive out here. However, if you can manage to get into one of these caves, you're usually sitting pretty good. Now, these caves are definitely situational. Like I said, I tend not to play on official. I tend to play on or either single player or on other servers that are modded and have other changes done to them. But with the idea of having a Helena transport and then having the tech skiff and hazard armor and all that other good stuff, I would say this is definitely feasible even on official. Mainly because you can make something like a tech skiff, use Helena to transport in and out, fly your happy butt right back in here, and you're good to go again. Typically, like I said, this isn't something that I would normally go after, mainly because of accessibility, but because Genesis did open up the tech skiff to be able to fly around a lot better, it makes this a bit more feasible. Now, obviously, this is more of an end game location, mid to end game location, because of what it's going to cost you to get in here. It's going to be very difficult, and you're going to want to be very careful when you start playing on this biome. But that's it. I like it. It's very easily to defend. I mean, a behemoth gate right around here, right around in this general area here, and then clear out what's in there. Maybe use a couple of foundations, well-placed foundations, to kill some spawns off, depending on how big you build, and you're pretty good. Up on this asteroid, you do have a couple of missions and lots of animals to kill, and a couple of missions and scanner things and other resources that are nearby. And this sits pretty high above the rest of the asteroids, which is kind of nice. It definitely gives you a pretty cool view when you come out here. Like I said, this is definitely a mid to late game place that I would build at, and this might even be like a secondary build location that I would just have to come out and do resource harvesting and repair my equipment when I needed to while I was out here. But this is a pretty area. I like it. I mean, it definitely reminds me of Aberration, and I love Aberration, so this definitely fits into that wheelhouse pretty easily. But that's it. That's the top 5 that I have out here, at least the top 5 that I like anyway. Nothing set in stone. There's no law saying what I'm saying is right or wrong or whatever. Just my opinion, my 2 cents. This is where I would go. Genesis can be a very finicky map. This is another map that kind of, much like Extinction, was either really loved or really hated. There really wasn't a whole lot of in the middle with this map. I think it does have some really good redeeming qualities to it, but there are a couple things that definitely bug me a little bit. If you'll notice, none of these build locations that I listed were in the Arctic biome. I really like aesthetically the look of the Arctic biome. I think it was done really well, and the cool blizzard effect on half of the map is an awesome added feature. There's just not a whole lot for me anyway of really good locations that I really like. So when I look at build locations, I look at close to general resources that I'm going to need depending on whether it's early, mid, or late game, how easy it's going to be to get in and out of that, and then how likely am I going to be able to stay there later on. But also I want something that's a bit more aesthetically pleasing and something with a bit more flat space that I can do some stuff with. I couldn't really find that in Arctic biome. That's just me anyway. But maybe you guys are out there. You found different ways to do this, different ways of building out there that I don't know about. Leave in the comments where your top 5 build locations at, locations that you really worked for you. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. We'll see you all on the next one.